Welcome to yet another episode of Mental Odyssey. This one is long overdue, but well worth the wait. This one is continuing the theme of this season, asking life questions to my loved ones, and I'm asking my husband today. I can't wait for you guys to hear his answers and just be a part of this conversation. So we're going to jump right in. Thank you for being here. Well, hello, dearie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, as you know, I am asking life questions to all of my loved ones. And as you are one of my loved ones,
I hope so.
here we are. My first question is, how, in your experience, would you handle rejection?
What kind of rejection?
Fill in the blank.
Relationship rejection, job rejection.
All of it.
Relationship rejection before you. Actually, now that I think about it, regardless of the type of rejection, I kind of turn it inward. Like I don't take rejection well internally. Externally, I might have a different reaction. I internalize a lot of my rejection, and I kind of, no matter what it is, take it as my fault. Like I could have done something better or said something different to make a more favorable outcome. It's really hard for me to just surrender to the outcome. It also depends on who I'm talking to and how valuable that conversation or relationship is. Like a conversation with my boss might be a little bit different than a conversation with that dude who was trying to pitch you Amway over at Starbucks, right? Like that, the Amway conversation has next to no value for me other than maybe I can hear him out and hear what he has to say. But as far as a job goes, that's a more tangible. So like real estate rejection, it's hit or miss, like how
much money is in the bank?
That's no, you know what? I think that's a real conversation to have too, because as you know, most spouses fight about money. It's like the number one thing that stresses marriages out. And if I don't have a whole lot of money in the bank and I'm depending on clients in real estate, of course, I'm going to handle rejection from them a lot worse than if I'm comfortably at a couple thousand in the bank or bills are paid. And
right.
Yeah, it's a lot different. But overall, as a whole, I am able to detach from that sort of rejection. Like open houses, people come in, and I don't like to ask if they're working with a realtor right away. So I ask more personal questions first. Very first question I ask is, what is your name? Because that would be a good place to start for just about anybody.
Yeah.
I just tell them about the house, ask their name, say if they, if you have any questions, I'll be around. And then I just check in with them periodically throughout. So really, 10, 12, 15 minutes could go by before I even have some kind of rejection. So I've got a little bit of, and I can identify whether or not they've been working with someone, if they're first-time home buyers, through other questions. And so it kind of leads me down a different path. But
you can kind of prepare beforehand for it.
Right. I can prepare a little bit. What I was not prepared for, I won't name who they were, but I had 2 clients within a month of each other reject me pretty harshly. I think reject is pretty good.
I would say so, yeah.
It's a different form of rejection, but
it was
still
at
rejection.
least received as rejection, and that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it was received as rejection, and I can tell you right now, I did not respond well.
Yeah.
I did not respond well.
You did outside, yeah.
Outside, to them, of course, because regardless of what my reaction is, it's not their fault.
Matters.
Like, it's their life. They made the decision that was best for them. Whatever. Fine. It doesn't piss me off any less, but that's not their fault. They don't deserve to have it taken out on them. But I definitely internalized that, and I was pissed off about both of them for, probably, I'd say at least a month before I actually started to get over it.
Right. It took a minute.
Now that I think about it, I'm still frustrated, but it's no longer the same type of anger. You know? And I should phrase, by that anger, I thought it was me. You know, like I could have done something better or said something different. And yeah, so that's kind of what happens when I get rejected is I internalize it. I turn the hatred towards myself, which is not a good thing. But
even if it's not something that you can fix or have
Right.
control over.
Right. And
or need to fix.
Right.
You might have been rejected over something that, like, okay, that just might not have been their style type thing.
Right. And, you know, that's one thing that I learned transitioning into Windermere during the onboarding process. They were like, well, we need to interview you and make sure that you're the right broker for us. And when I heard them say that, I was like, oh, this is going to be my place. I was like, they filter people. They don't just hire anybody, which,
right.
I mean, I'm not saying that not everyone deserves a job, but specifically there's a certain personality type that kind of meshes with the remainder of the culture, you know, and if that personality isn't going to mesh with the culture, why would you include them in the culture in the first place?
Right.
Right. And so they interviewed me and they liked me well enough. So I got brought on, which is nice. And my managing broker had taught me to interview clients in a similar fashion. It's not just, hey, give me your business, whoever it is. Like there might be, so I learned about the 4 personality types, the perfect power, peace,
party.
Right. And my managing broker was explaining to me the different personality types and how they can mesh together. Like oftentimes a peace person isn't really going to get along with a power person, or party. Like and everyone has a little bit of everything in them, or he said they vacation in certain areas. Like he thought I was a party personality. Turns out I'm a power perfect. And he thought I was a party. So I vacation in the party, but I'm a power perfect.
Which makes sense of why you handle rejection the way that you do.
Yeah.
You have the power to change it, and you need
well,
to be
I believe
perfect.
I do. Sometimes I don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
Your personality is like, that's...
Yeah. It's definitely something I could have done.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, there's not a whole lot of things that I can't control in some fashion or another with words, actions, pre-planning, post-planning.
Right.
I guess there's no such thing as post-planning. It's that's more learning.
Right.
But,
how are you going to not do it next time?
Yeah, no, he taught me how to interview clients because not everyone is going to get along with me.
Right.
And I think it helps that I'm dynamic, but there are just some people that I would not get along with. And being in a transaction with them and like the largest purchase of their lives, there's a lot of stress that goes on, even stress that doesn't involve me.
Right.
So, you know, I appreciated that sort of advice, and it's helped me kind of mitigate rejection a little bit better.
Well, good.
You know, and teach me that I can reject people too. I don't just have to take whatever I can get. And kind of putting that power, being a power perfect type person, knowing that I have the kind of power to reject someone's business, that gives me hope.
Yeah.
You know, because then I'm like, hey, I need to make sure that I'm the right fit for you and that you're the right fit for me.
Right.
Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I like that answer. I like that answer. Sounds like you're getting better at handling it. So
I should hope so.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Depends on how much money's in
the circumstance. Yeah. Well, the next question that I have is, what is the antidote to loneliness?
That's a good question. I'd say self-assurance. Like I can't depend on other people making me feel less lonely all the time, right? There's going to be periods in my life where I'm going to be alone. And one of my favorite activities to do before we got married was camp alone. You know, like go out and just be alone in the wilderness. And if I didn't have any self-assurance, I would certainly not be doing that.
Right.
It's scary. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of scary. The woods make a lot of sounds that are going to freak you out, and it can be lonely, you know, out there by yourself, wishing you were partying or something. Growing up in the way that I did, I felt isolated a lot of times. We moved around a little bit, and I won't get into details on how exactly that happened, but I had to change schools a lot, and making friends and having constant friends was a very uncommon thing, I guess. It was uncommon for me to have consistent friendships and consistent interactions with the same people.
I mean, it's hard to when you're moving all the time.
Right.
So.
And yeah, I can't even remember how many times I've moved, but
I think we counted 12.
12?
Before.
Yeah, probably.
At least.
That sounds about right, at least. And that's between like kindergarten to high school. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's whack to think about.
Once a year.
Yeah. But anyways, before I moved here, I was 13. So it's been 14 years now. It was kind of all over the place. And that paired with the fact that I'm 7.5 years older than Eli, it made me feel a bit isolated, you know, like he wanted to be a part of our activities, but there was such an age gap that it didn't always make sense.
Right.
I was always going to the Boys and Girls Club by myself, you know, every now and then my brothers were there, but for the most part, it was just me. Yeah. And then after I moved, I didn't know anybody. And I went from, they called it a safe harbor school. I don't even remember why. It's something about a harbor that's safe from like bullying, and that was a total lie. There was nothing safe about that school for me. You know, it was similar to 1st through 5th grade where you're in the same room all day, except for like we left the room to go to science class and PE, and math class was next door. And I don't remember the exact structure after so many years, but it was not your average middle school, right? Where you go first period, second period, third period, all the way through however many you got. My first dose of that, and I watched Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. You ever see that one on cable? No? Well, it painted a certain picture of how middle school is going to be. And when I got there, it was so much worse.
Yeah.
It was so much worse.
Middle school was miserable.
It was miserable.
Why are kids so mean?
Well, especially in 8th grade, no one knows what's going on. Right. Your hormones are always bouncing back and forth. And,
right.
Oh, man. That was probably the worst year for being bullied for me and bullying. I bullied my friend Ricky. And as penance, my mom made this like sign that said, "Ask me how I bullied my friend," and like made me stand right in front of her house. I had to stand out there at like 5 o'clock at night with all the traffic and stuff. It was a proper amount of embarrassment. And that's not why I apologized to him. I apologized to him because what I did to him was just up in general. And I think he's still working at McDonald's these days, but wherever he is, I hope he's happy. You know, I apologized a couple times. We worked together at Value Village. I learned my lesson.
Nice.
But that was a very, very harsh year. That was my first dose of what real middle school is, and it sucked. And I just moved to a new area. I don't know anybody. Like, at least moving around schools over in Meridian, Idaho, chances are I would land on someone who also moved, and like it happened once or twice. But up here, it's a different culture. It's a different environment. It's different people. It was very isolating. And I kind of just took to myself, you know. I just did what I always do, read books, listened to my own music, hung out in the backyard, and just had the self-assurance necessary to get through it, and it carried me even now. You know, that's kind of what built my self-assurance and my reliability in myself is the way I grew up and being forced into it, you know.
Yeah.
I couldn't exactly rely on my parents for support either.
Right.
You know? So on top of not knowing what to do or where to go or how to navigate these situations, I didn't have the parental support that I needed. Yeah. And so I was kind of on my own.
You learned very early on that if you are lonely, it's your responsibility to get yourself out of there.
Right. And, you know, I wouldn't say it got any less lonely, but at the very least, it got less miserable.
Right.
And I'd say that was a win.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that answer a lot. You can't depend on other people to get you out of that headspace because they're not going to. And if anything, I feel like waiting for that to happen is just going to keep you trapped in that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I would say the adverse effect that has is now I don't trust people. You know, it's not all glamour, you know.
Right.
There are a lot of movies that try to idolize the lone wolf aspect, you know, where you're like, oh, I'm so self-assured and I'm such a badass. No, it's not like that at all, dude.
Right.
It sucks. It's lonely.
You're forced in that position.
Yeah.
Nobody really chooses to be lonely. They get rejected into loneliness. They get life deals them a shitty hand, and
Well, and
their loved one dies early, or
only now, like after I met you, did I realize that it's okay to like reach out for help if you need it. Because my entire life, it has not been the case.
Right.
Anytime I would reach out, if anybody was there, sometimes they'd smack my hand back down.
Yep.
They're like, "Nah, you go figure it out yourself." And you know what? I did. You know, it was miserable back then, but I've learned to live with it, and it's a little less miserable now. And, you know, I'd like to believe that gives me some form of confidence, but it still really affects the way I trust people.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very hard for me to assume someone is just nice, you know, even though I'm that way. I don't always have an agenda when I'm being nice. There are a few times when I do, but for the most part, like, I'm a nice dude. It's just hard for me to believe that other people are that way because of what I've seen through my whole life. So I wish it, and for what it's worth, I wish it didn't affect me that way. That's just what I ended up having to deal with.
I feel like with time, with more relationships, your relationship with that.
Being an adult also helps, you know. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. Everyone's been a kid at one point, and a few of those kids were always wise beyond their years and never taken seriously by adults. And I was one of those kids. Yep. They didn't take me seriously.
And now you're being taken seriously.
And now
by
I'm being
adults.
taken seriously. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. And especially people in my age range, or, you know, a couple years up, couple years down, like having the respect of my peers around me and knowing that we're no longer kids really helps.
Yep.
Because like, imagine I had a lot of similar thoughts that I do now that when I was a kid. And I had no way to process that, no way to process it. I couldn't skip it off of people. I basically had to have conversations with myself. And but now being an adult and having knowledge and respect definitely helps remove some of the loneliness.
And a wife
who's nice to me.
Who's really nice to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course. It's only because you do it to me.
We'll play kindness tit for tat.
Yes. All right. So the next question applies more to the people I've interviewed that have lived more life than us. But it is, how did you pick a career? Yeah.
Right, career. Well, first of all, I thought I did have a career until we all got fired a year ago.
Yeah,
or laid off a year ago. But I don't know, it's kind of sad too.
Who
would have made newspapers a career this day and age? Like if this were, you know, the thing is that job was not all that bad. And like I learned a lot there, especially of how to manage people and the different personalities that would come through and be successful or unsuccessful at newspaper jobs.
Right.
So, you know, plus side, I have almost 7 years of management experience now, and I'm 27. So, oh man, yeah, time flies. So, you know, I've got that experience. And then for my current career, quote unquote, one of them being a realtor, I wanted to do something that did not require a college degree, you know, because I know that I'm relatively smart. I know that I'm smart enough to get a college degree if I so chose, but I'm not gonna, because I think it's a huge waste of money and a huge waste of time.
Agreed.
And so I was like, where can I apply my knowledge and my smarts and my willingness to learn without having to do it in college for 4 years before I get more respect?
Right.
And I was like, oh, hey, and you know the story of how I found Keller Williams and that start of the journey, and then I ended up at Windermere. But each step of the way in my real estate career, I've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. And you know, it seems like with every step I move, I learn more than the amount of time I did before, which is nice. So like when I first joined Keller and I was still working the newspapers, I couldn't do both. Right. There was no way. I had to go to bed at 2:30 p.m., wake up at 10:30 p.m. and work all night, and then somehow have motivation to do all the things required in life at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And then go to bed again at 2:30. And it was just,
That was a rough
time.
schedule.
That was a rough schedule. And then when we got laid off, I took that vacation time, started back into real estate. Not really. I felt like I started from square one again, even though I'd been a realtor for 6 months. Because like I didn't know anything. I was getting in full time. Just
this is your first time being able to like focus on it.
Yeah, and be on a regular sleep schedule,
Yep.
and I enjoyed it. You know, we'll get into that in a second, but I enjoyed it, and then I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere, so I joined a team. And then when I joined the team, I learned so much on that team that I thought, oh, hey, I learned more in the 3 months I was on that team than the entire year I was with Keller by myself. And then I ended up joining Windermere, and I learned more in my 2 or 3 months at Windermere than I did in my entire career at Keller.
Right.
So, like, every step that I make, I'm learning so much. And I would say that's the only benefit of having the market that we do now is that I get to learn.
Right.
I get to learn and kind of take a back seat, kind of decentralize from all the drama. I'm reaching a point though where this market better get better, man. I'm a little frustrated, you know. I haven't been able to apply my knowledge, and that kind of removes some of that self-assurity that we were talking about on that last question, because my self-assurity comes from the way that I work.
Right.
I work very hard, I work diligently, and I try to learn as much as I can. And when I apply it, that's when I feel the fruits of my labor. But recently, with the market the way it is and trying to get into my second career, it's hard.
Yep.
And, you know, when I joined the team back in May, as you know, our finances were already hurting, and now here we are much, much further down the road, and it has not improved very much. And so now I have to put that career on the back seat, and that was what led me to choose my other career, which I also enjoy. I also enjoy bartending and serving and whatnot. And it really sucks for me that I have to put real estate on the side. But, you know, I do what I got to do.
It was definitely one of the things you wanted to do.
It was,
It was actually out on the board when you were like wanting to look for a new job.
Yeah, I wanted to deliver pizzas, be a bouncer, I don't
bartender,
bartending. Yeah, and I've done 2 of those. I don't think I can squeeze in the pizza delivery.
Yeah,
but who cares?
You had paper delivery.
Yeah, I had paper delivery. That was enough. And you know what? What really helps me from that experience, that 7 years of being in the area, hands-on, I get to learn all the neighborhoods, roughly the demographic, what goes on throughout the town. So it's helped me a lot in my real estate career.
Right.
I just haven't had the opportunity to kind of show, or what's the phrase, flex your muscles.
Right.
Yeah, like I've been building up the muscle.
It'll be interesting to see where this plays out, because with the interview with a couple of my parents and my grandparents, it's like each of their interests led to the next like step in their career. And so it'll be interesting to see where this goes for you.
I mean, part of the reason I got a job at a bar is to market anyway. You know, get my face out there, my name out there. And yeah. So every step that I make, I feel like it's fueling me in one way or the other. So I know that there are folks out there who don't get that same opportunity.
Right.
And I'm very thankful for it. You know, but I work to be here.
Yep.
Like the fruit of my labor is being able to go anywhere and do anything.
Yep.
Because that's who I am.
Yep.
Well, for the most part, don't ask me about nuclear fission, but
oh my God.
I can do a lot of stuff, but that's a bit above my pay grade.
Yeah. You need a college degree for that one.
I do. I do.
All right. So the next question is, or I guess the last one. Did I already say that? Anyway, the last question is, how is it to be in a long-term relationship? Would you call this long-term?
I would. Oh, time to go.
Time to go. Well, you better hurry and talk about me. Just kidding.
Repeat the question. Time went off. I lost my answer.
You're good.
What was the question? How
is it to be in a long-term relationship? Which is kind of a weird way to ask a question, but that's how I have it written down.
Who cares? I'd say this one is everything that I wanted. I had to filter through a lot of stuff. You know, the first serious relationship I was in was extremely detrimental to me. I was codependent. I dealt with a lot of abuse in every facet of that word that you can think. I likely dealt with it in that 3.5 years. And then in the next one after that, I was the asshole for sure. You know, I didn't do any sort of like physical abuse, but I definitely yelled more than I should have. Didn't say the kind words that I should have. I just kind of kept quiet, kept to myself, and didn't treat that relationship with the respect it deserved. But now that I've been on both ends of the spectrum, and I've learned what it takes to really keep your partner happy and make the relationship work. You know, I feel like when we met, we weren't perfect for each other, and then we formed ourselves to be perfect for each other.
I agree.
Yeah, like it wasn't handed to us. The amount of work that we've had to do.
Yeah.
I'd say we've probably only had 3 major fights. Is that where we're at now? 3, 4?
I don't know what you like. I don't know. I honestly haven't kept track.
Well, either way, during those fights, we don't attack each other. That's
right.
the point. We don't attack each other in our fights, and that's a new concept to me. It takes a lot because my internal voice is basically screaming the whole time, so it takes a lot for me to hold that back and actually have a productive conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't do very well being attacked. I don't respond well to that.
Perceived attack.
Perceived attack. Because, you know, I think one of our arguments actually started because I thought you were attacking me.
I wasn't.
And you weren't, right?
Then we went on this like a whole 20-minute song and dance of like, yeah.
Yeah. But again, I think a major part of what makes our relationship work is that when we disconnect, we try to find the common ground, and we reconnect.
Mm-hmm.
I forget it's disconnect. What's the middle word? Conflict? Just disconnection, conflict, and resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And the resolution is equally as important.
It is.
One thing that I really enjoy is that we can talk about an argument we may have had a couple days prior, and there's no hate because we resolve it. I've always liked the phrase, don't go to bed mad at each other. And there have been a few times when you and I have gone to bed without resolution to the problem, but we definitely didn't go to bed hating each other.
Right.
And we came to an agreement, the 2 times that I can recall, we came to an agreement that we were going to revisit it tomorrow and that we can put our guns down for a second and go to bed peacefully with each other.
Sure.
And that's really what matters, you know, because I don't hate you, whether we fight or not. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to feel that way. So as long as we can have conversations about it, like the age old, I'm pretty sure you experience the same thing where you think you have resolution, then 2 days later you want to talk about it, and then like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah.
What else do you have to say about it? Yeah, I've been there, both ends of that, and it's just not productive.
No,
it's really not. You know, if someone has something to say about it, especially your spouse, you should listen because that means something went unresolved.
Right.
And
trying to listen from a place of like not like feeling attacked, you know, like coming from a place of like, this is what their feeling is. It's not the truth. It's their truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might not be factual. You don't have to agree, but if you want to like stand there and actually see and understand your partner, you very much have to be like, okay, this is their feelings and they are allowed to have them, whatever they may be and however I feel about them.
Well, and it's helpful for me to think of it like feelings. Like you're having these feelings or these thoughts.
Right.
It's not necessarily all around the clock.
This is how I feel. This is what I think. It's like, this is how I'm feeling. Yeah. This is what I'm thinking right now. It's not always like that, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think that us having built that space for the conversation is what helps form this long-term relationship into what it is.
I agree.
And yes, it's the longest I've been in. We've been in a relationship now for 3 years and 6 months.
Crazy.
This is for sure the best and longest relationship I've been in.
Agreed.
And it's nice. it's a nice change of pace to have someone respect me as much as I respect them, and vice versa.
Right.
You know, and someone. All right, this is gonna sound a bit messed up, but someone who demands that I respect them in a respectful way.
Right. I'm not gonna accept being disrespected.
Right.
Which means that, like, you're not going to either. You know, like, I'm gonna hold that same thing for you. I'm not gonna allow myself to disrespect you intentionally.
Yeah, it's nice not having to do that work.
Yeah,
that's what you brought to the table. I didn't have to like try and explain that's what I wanted. That's just what you had.
Yep.
So it's one of the many things that led me to believe that you were the person I would marry.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you did.
I did. Yeah. It is very nice being in a long-term relationship with you.
Oh.
Not just a long-term relationship, but I actually kind of find it fun putting in the work of making it work. And what makes it fun, super important that you respect our relationship too. And that's something I'm not necessarily used to. So you having the same level of respect for our success is a huge help. And all the work that you put into being who you are really helps out. And I see it. Even if I don't acknowledge it all the time, I see it. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Derry.
Oh, I try.
I'm happy to be with you, Derry.
I'm happy to be with you too.
I'm glad that you've chosen to be in a long-term relationship with me.
I am too.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It was
like
a little
5 years
hard
from
to, actually, I think that's another thing, going back to the first question. When we first met, I did not want a relationship. I knew that I was the piece of shit in the other one, and I was just like, I'm not ready. I got to work on me. Like that. It's not how I should be acting in a relationship.
I was in the same place too.
Yeah. Yeah, we, I don't think either one of us were looking for a relationship.
No, we were not.
No. And, yeah. I don't know what it was about you. I just knew something was a little different.
Yeah, I feel the same.
You were also the first person to chase me. That was fun.
What can I say?
That was fun, being chased. Yeah, that was nice. But yeah, I thought that I was going to be not necessarily lonely for a while, but just alone.
Right.
Like I was resigned to being alone because I needed to. And I didn't think I'd get into a relationship that fast. I think we even had a talk about that when you would ask to DTR. I was like, I'm going to need some time, dude, because I do not want a relationship, and I want to make sure that if we go through with this, that I'm not just going to ruin it and just be a jerk again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't. It was fun. It was nice. I think what changed my mind faster rather than slower is seeing you be an independent person as well, and knowing I'm like, okay, she's an independent person. I'm an independent person. We can be dependent together and still be separate.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to shoulder the entire burden of the relationship again. I just got out of one where I felt like I was, and I was just like, I'm not ready for that, dude. I spent 2.5 years or 2 years or so doing it, and it just wasn't fun.
I was literally talking with Bailey about this yesterday, but I was like, look at how much we've grown. Because, like, we've seen each other go through some pretty shitty relationships, and we're both in a pretty good one now. And I was like, hell yeah, no more codependency for us. And she was like, yep, we're independent. And I was like, well, I'm a little bit dependent on you.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit dependent on you. But it's like,
well, you should be.
What
when
Bailey
you're in a marriage.
said, she's like, you just got to both be simps for each other. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you just simp for each other.
Yeah, it's a good way of thinking about it.
Well, thank you for being here, Derry.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
I love you.
I love you too.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.